Welcome along. Sir Keir Starmer is tanking, and so is the Labour Party. The nation has buyer's remorse. The latest polls show that Labour are down to 30%. The Tories, who don't even have a leader or any policies at the moment, are on 26%, and Reform are now at 19%, their joint highest rating ever. That means that in the last few weeks, Labour has already lost the equivalent of 65 seats in Parliament. Keir Starmer's personal approval ratings are in free fall. 44% of people are dissatisfied with him. That's his worst ever rating. And things are set to get worse for Starmer, because remember when he and Rachel Reeves said stuff like this?
We will not raise tax on working people. No tax rises for income tax, for national insurance, for VAT. We will not raise income tax. We will not raise national insurance. We will not raise VAT.
Labour has no plans to increase taxes on working people.
Well, 56% of people think he was dishonest about tax rises. 56%, which means when Labour keep trying to say this...
Things are worse than we ever imagined. In the first few weeks, we discovered a £22 billion black hole in the public finances. And before anyone says, oh, this is just performative or playing politics, let's remember the OBR did not know about it.
Well, it turns out the public simply don't buy that, and he's in big trouble if fuel duty and inheritance tax go up. Why? Because 59% of people think a hike on fuel duty is a tax on working people, and on inheritance tax as well. More people think that's a tax on working people than don't. But it's more than that. Two-tier policing, two-tier justice, the rush to demonise people as far-right racists, the cronyism scandal, which is now actually being investigated, by the way. The idea that he has inept people around him, like Angela Rayner and Jess Phillips, who has recently claimed she got better health care because she's pro-Palestine. The pensioners' winter fuel allowance cut, not in the manifesto, won't get a vote in Parliament. Ignoring concerns on immigration, cozying up with the deeply unpopular German leader and Emmanuel Macron to dispose of Brexit by the back door, nanny statism, banning smoking in pub gardens. It's going to be a long 5 years under Labour, but if these polls are anything to go by, Sir Keir Starmer won't be in office for all of it. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. I've got broadcaster and journalist Carol Malone. I'm also joined as well by journalist and commentator Benjamin Butterworth, and the former chairman of the Conservative Party, Sir Jake Berry. I'm looking forward to shimmying on over there now, I think, and getting their views. Yes, absolutely. Well, Carol, I will start with you on this. So, do you think that Keir Starmer actually will last the full 5 years?
No, I don't think he will at all. I don't think he's going to last the rest of this year. I don't think I've ever known most prime ministers when they're just voted into office. They get a honeymoon period. Starmer's had no honeymoon period. This is 6 weeks now, and we've got more than half the people in the country saying that he's making mistakes. Poll last week said 2/3 of Brits believe that Labour believe more in helping themselves and their allies than they do the British people, and when that is unheard of. And I just think he's got it entirely wrong. That stuff you just saw there about we will not impose taxes on workers. Unfreezing the fuel tax, people will not have been clobbered in that way since 1997, since the last time Labour were in. And that was between 97 and 2010, when they increased fuel tax by a staggering 46%. If this man had the vaguest clue how the economy worked, he would know that road transport is absolutely essential to the economy. And diesel is the lifeblood of transport. And he's actually going to clobber people who would make money for this country. He's going to wreck growth. He has no idea how it works. And I just think to misunderstand the people who voted for him and socialist people who voted for him, the pensioners, that's a massive mistake. This is an even bigger mistake, the fuel tax.
Yeah, well, we just have a look at those polls. The idea now that Labour are down to 30%, Keir Starmer's dissatisfaction rating, the worst it's ever been. I mean, he's not had an opposition. He's not even been in Parliament yet, really, has he? I mean, this is astonishing stuff, Benjamin.
No, I don't think it's astonishing at all. I think it's what you would have expected when you think about the kind of serious issues and the mess that has to be dealt with. There's another poll in there, of course, which is conveniently not mentioned, which is that when people were asked whether they'd choose a Labour government or a Conservative government, 2/3 said a Labour government. And I think that tells you a bit more depth about how people feel if they were really going to change party.
Are you pushing? Are you pushing this dire situation line? Where the fastest growing economy in the G7, sterling is at an all-time high, inflation's 200%. What's dire about that, Benjamin? Tell me.
I don't think you need me or you to tell people, because they voted very clearly in this way.
They didn't vote.
That the fact that
of them voted very clearly.
The fact that they feel considerably poorer than they did in 2010. The fact that house prices are out of reach for anyone under 40 if they're in a big city. The fact that people's public services are at breaking point. People know that's how bad it is. And what you have is someone that is giving uncomfortable truths rather than comfortable lies. And that is why he's in the situation. And the only way he's going to win the election... arrogant, smug toffs like Sir Jake Berry...
He's laughing at your nonsense.
People like Sir Jake Berry plunged this country into a ditch.
When you lost the argument, you start playing the man, not the ball.
You're the man that put the country in a ditch.
What I'd say about Keir Starmer is that I think he's been found out. The British people are not fools. They voted in a Labour government because my party, the Conservative Party, made a spectacular mess of it and they wanted to get rid of us. But actually, they realise that they have been sold the sort of the pup in the bag. And when the Labour Party says, we will not increase taxes on working people, but then look set to increase something like fuel duty, which hits every working person in this world going to the office, it puts up bills. Even bizarrely, it puts up things like the price of new houses, because you've got to put diesel in diggers to dig holes, to build houses. You need to put diesel in the trucks to deliver bricks to building sites. It has a massive impact across the economy. And the British people look at that and say, we were lied to. You told us you wouldn't increase taxes on working people. This is hitting us in our pocket every single day. And that's why Keir Starmer's unpopular, because the British public don't like being conned and they don't like being taken for a fool. And I think that's what these numbers show. They don't show the Conservatives are massively popular, is that Keir Starmer is taking the public
And
for a
remember,
ride.
before the election, he was banging on about how the Tories had imposed the biggest tax burden since World War II. What is he going to do with all of this? And that same poll that I think you might have quoted before, not only does the fuel tax involve workers, but he'll also think the inheritance tax is a tax on workers too. So, he's going to hit everybody. There's not a section of this country that he's not going to hit hard. The thing is, the people who will not recover are the workers. The people who will recover are the very rich, because they can either afford it or they'll bog off somewhere else, which is what's happening.
I mean, that's nonsense, because inheritance tax, for example, is only paid by 4% of estates. The vast majority of people...
So when you add that up collectively, that is actually quite a lot of people. Quite a lot of money.
Well, if you're in a marriage, then it's £1 million before it kicks in. So, that's not a lot of people that have £1 million estates. Certainly not people in the northeast and northwest where lots of the seats were picked up. And the truth is that I think people understand how hard it is. I think if he stood there and said, I don't know, there's going to be sunlit uplands and nothing will be difficult, then people would be cynical.
Well,
and if in 5 years...
He's got a tax-free pension, hasn't he, from when he was at the DPP?
Yes.
So he's got a tax-free pension at the moment. That was a remarkable state of affairs that managed to concoct that for himself. But he's perfectly willing to club a pension.
There's a specific parliamentary... There's a piece of secondary legislation. We actually passed legislation in this country.
You did that.
It wasn't us, actually.
To give him a tax-free pension.
To give him a tax-free pension. And when we decapped... Well, it might have been, but it certainly wasn't me. When we decapped the amount ordinary people could put in their pension, which was actually seeing doctors leaving the profession in droves. Of course, the then government should have taken the opportunity to remove the tax-free status from Keir Starmer's pension. We didn't.
Well, he's not doing
that is a mistake. He shouldn't be getting it.
It's interesting.
It's a bit rich to criticise Keir Starmer for something a Conservative-led government did.
He was the one who negotiated it for himself.
It's also interesting.
But it only happened because,
why doesn't he give it up?
Conservatives voted for it.
Rishi Sunak's wife, love him or loathe him, even though she was non-domicile, an Indian national, voluntarily paid tax in the United Kingdom.
Did she...
whether you think that's right or wrong or should have paid it in the first place, she did. She voluntarily does it. Why doesn't Keir Starmer voluntarily give up his tax-free pension at the same time
I think
as
he
he's
should...
hammering poor pensioners?
And
He's taking away their winter fuel allowance.
He's not hammering poor pensioners.
Of course he is.
They're
going to die.
He's hammering 70-year-old millionaires that are strangling this
here
economy.
we go.
And can I just point out...
apparently, except you.
Yeah.
Well, almost 30% of pensioners are millionaires.
This is what
OK? But can I just point out...
That is nonsense, Benjamin. They have a house that may be worth close to £1 million. It does not make them a millionaire.
I'd choose that.
So what should they do?
Just to be clear, I'll take a house worth £1 million and I'll pay my own...
money to be able to buy a house, so stop it.
Not £1 million house.
I understand the point, though, if I may.
And if sell the home they're in, should they sell the home they're in?
Yes, they should.
Live in a little house.
A house appropriate size.
Yes, there we have it.
Yes, they should.
Socialism Britain. You'll be moved out of your house because you live in too big a house. The point is with pensioners, they're on a fixed income, which is a pension, whether that's the state pension or a private pension. They have no ability to increase that fixed income, and that's why things like fuel price inflation hits them the most. And that's why the Labour government, introduced the winter fuel payment, non-mean tested in the first place, because pensioners cannot increase their income because they're on a fixed income.
The state of the financial well-being of pensioners is radically different to what it was 20 or 25 years ago.
No, it is not.
It is, because you see that in...
Do you know there are 2 million...
You weren't around in World War II, but I'm sure you still talk about that.
There are 2 million pensioners in this country that depend on the state pension alone, nothing else. And do you know how much that is a month, Benjamin? Have you any idea? It's probably what you'd spend on a weekend out. It's 750, 800 quid.
Boomers in this country
get for a month. And never mind boomers.
Boomers in this country have had a better deal than anybody else. And what Keir Starmer understands is that you cannot have a country that gives money to people that have paid off their mortgages, that have comfortable lives. Meanwhile, MPs vote on the budget, and it's obviously a part of that. So it does get a vote. And just to say, if Rishi Sunak's wife wants to give back the 20 million quid it's thought she benefited from being non-domicile, then when she does that, I'm sure Keir will pay some tax.
She did voluntarily pay tax. Why doesn't Keir Starmer
by about £20 million
his tax-free, gold-plated pension in the state, while he is ripping the winter fuel allowance?
Well, let's check your voting record and see if you voted for it.
Why won't he allow a vote on the winter fuel allowance?
Yet.
Benjamin.
No, it was a...
Why won't he allow a vote on the winter fuel allowance?
Because he's a coward.
If he did, he'd win it.
Because he knows he's wrong.
No,
he's a coward.
Well, on that note, everybody, we'll put a pin in it. Everybody has had their Weetabix this weekend, and they've come in raring to go. Would you love to see